Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode of the Dale Jr. Download, and it's the Ally guest segment of the show. We have a couple allies coming in today. The Kvapils are here, Travis and Carson, and we've got some great news to share, so I can't wait to get started. The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. All right, we're back in the Dale Jr. Download Dirty Mo Media studio for the Allied guest segment, and Ally has a couple of allies dropping by today. Carson and Travis Kvapil are here, and we have some really great news to announce. I'm sure some of y'all can already assume what that is. But Travis and I have become friends over the years because working with Carson has really allowed me to get introduced to this family and what they're all about. I raced with Travis in the Cup Series, but didn't know him all that well. So this has been a real treat for me to get to know them, and they are an incredible family, hardworking, and definitely a couple of allies. So I'm excited to tell a little bit about their story. And I want to thank Ally for bringing the guest segment to us every single week. They do such a great job supporting us here at Dirty Mo Media, but also doing all kinds of great things throughout the industry in NASCAR. So we all should be big fans of Ally. They're doing it right. We have Carson and Travis Kvapil on the show, and we got a lot to talk about. But one of the first things I want to talk about, and this is fun for me, fun for you, and I guess fun for Carson too, but we're here to announce that you'll be driving full-time for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series next year. This is a dream come true, and I've had the real privilege to have a very similar moment and announcement with Josh Berry, a guy you know well that helped coach you a bit in the late model stocks over the years. We had that sort of same announcement right here about his career and how he was going to get the opportunity to go full-time. So this isn't news to you today. We've been working on this possibility for many, many months in the background. And, you have incredible support from your dad, over the years, your family, and he's been instrumental in helping you get all of the opportunities that you had over the years, so we felt it important to include him on today's show. But I want to get your initial reaction to being not only, I guess, obviously being able to share the news that you've wanted to share, but what is it emotionally like for you when you're sitting at home and you're finally, because you're working your ass off all day long, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you never really get much time to sit down and think about what's going on in your life. But when you do, what's your emotions about this opportunity?
For me, it's just super exciting. I really, truthfully, haven't really thought about it a whole lot, like you're saying, like that. It hasn't really sunk in yet, I guess you'd say. But after Martinsville this past weekend, doing interviews on the front stretch and stuff, it was kind of hit me there, right? I was just thinking about, like, this is probably my last Martinsville 300, or hopefully I get to do it again, but it's going to be my last one for right now, and to win that race was so big. And just reflecting on, I guess, everything we've done in the last 5-10 years racing, kind of all is going to change quite a bit here, so that's really the biggest thing. Is it hit me pretty hard, almost got emotional really on some of those interviews after the race, just thinking about all the hard work we put in, especially with Brian and all the late model guys, just grinding it out every week, running late model stock races the last 3 years. It's kind of been it's been a lot of work, obviously, but it's kind of all starting to pay off right now, I guess you'd say.
You told me the other day, we were texting back and forth, and you said you got emotional, and I thought that was interesting because it doesn't seem like the kind of things you would do, because one of the things I always tell people about you is that you're always pretty much the same emotion, and that's served you well behind the wheel. You don't get frazzled, you don't get worked up, you don't get overhyped, you don't get angry. Now you have those emotions, but you're very good at managing them and not allowing that to be a problem in any circumstance. But when you get out and celebrate a victory, I can see the sense of happiness that you have for winning that race because of the work that you just mentioned that goes into it. But I can't really ever see you being the emotional type. And I'm kind of glad that happened, because you to your point, your life's about to change drastically, and all of the things that were familiar to you that you've grown happy doing, and the people that you've been working with. I mean, those things come and go. I think that's the one thing that I found most difficult is I had kind of the same experience. I was working with this guy in the late model stocks called Gary Hargett, and he was kind of like my Brian, and Gary became like a grandfather to me. You spend so much time with Brian, right? He's a relative. He's family.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready or aware that people were always going to be coming and going in my life. And that's one of the difficult parts about this transition, I guess, and that's maybe why you got so emotional.
I mean, probably, yeah. It's just, I guess the biggest thing for me is just 5 years ago, I would never have thought I was in this position, right? We were running super late models, me and Travis were, and just grinding it out, just trying to get to the next race at Hickory Speedway or something. So I guess I just look at it, 5 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be in the spot. So to be in the spot's quite amazing, really. And 3 years ago to be able to run your late model, that was about as big of a step as this is right now. It felt like at the time, just because we went from kind of the family-owned shop and just kind of doing whatever we needed to do and working however long we wanted to work on the stuff to more of a, I wouldn't say more of a legit race team, but just more structured. And really the biggest thing that I had to learn was more of the off-track stuff. And I feel like you and everyone here at Junior Motorsports have really taught me. I wouldn't say I'm quite perfect at it, but I've got a lot better at it. I understand it more. I just felt like before it was just race and work and get to the racetrack, and now there's a lot more to it, I guess you'd say. I've learned, and there's a lot of extra stuff that I didn't realize that I needed to know, and I feel like I've really learned that. But yeah, for sure. I mean, being around those late model guys the last few years, I've learned a lot off those guys, and you know how Brian is. He's at times he's a little difficult to work with, but man, he's super smart. He's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
And I feel like
but part of that, he's difficult to work with, but like he molded you into a stronger person too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not.
He holds you accountable.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure. He's great how he does that, and when you're at the time, you're just like, man, come on. But you sit back on it, it's just like, it makes sense, and he does such a good job on the late model stuff. He's won however many races with Josh, and one with others even. So he's a great role model to work with throughout the years, and hopefully I can still drop in there quite a bit. That's what I'm hoping to do, is just drop in there as much as I can and hang out with those guys.
Travis, you had the challenge of getting yourself getting yourself the career and the opportunities that you were presented, and you know how difficult that is. You know how difficult this next step is for him. You know how difficult it is to even have the opportunity to present itself. You've lived that. And I've found that really fascinating to watch fathers, and I've not experienced this myself, but I've certainly seen it happen many, many times. What is this feeling like for you, having exhausted yourself in your own career, right? You all of us, no matter what we go through, our careers take a ton out of us. And then you had to sort of, and I imagine this wasn't that difficult because of the love you have for your children, but then you had to man back up and climb back up on that horse to try to get your boys those same chances. And here it is coming to reality. Yeah,
I mean, it's almost like a sense of relief, because I felt like several years ago running a Bandolero car or an Outlaw cart at Millbridge, it's like he's got something special. I knew it. I've known it for a number of years, and it's seems like only the last few years has it been like public knowledge, right? Like you've seen it. Sponsors and other owners, manufacturers see it. So just all the work in the late hours, the time, so much. Like I was thinking about this last night, like when he was 12 years old and he win a outlaw kart race in Iowa, I had a group. I kind of had like this. There was 5 or 6 people I would text in the industry, just to like, hey, Carson won another big one. Like pay attention, he's coming, and you don't know if it's going to work out, but it was just keep his name. People, whether they're team owners or in manufacturers, I would just try to keep his name coming, right? Like remind them every week or every couple of weeks when you win a race, pay attention to this guy. So to see, and like he said, when he got this opportunity to drive the late model for you, I knew 100% he would just take the ball and run and go. We were having success in our super late model stuff. We were winning races, but it was just me and him. Our resources were so limited, and I was a race car driver forever. Since 2001, I never hardly touched a wrench. Until like we started Bandolero racing again. 15, 16 years later. So the cars and everything had changed so much in that time. So I had to learn how to, the bump stops and all that stuff. I had to learn all of that. So that's why I say I felt like we were holding him back, even though we were having success. I knew when he got with a legitimate race team that was already winning and had a solid notebook that he was just going to go. And that's exactly what happened.
One of the things that I really appreciated about you, look, I mean, if when he come to drive the late model stock car, I would not have I would not have minded one bit had you been incredibly hands-on and involved yourself in the mechanics of the team, but you didn't. Now you were, you were around, you were supporting your son, and you were, from my experience, which is limited, but from my experience of seeing you at the racetrack, you let Brian do his job and you let the team work, and you almost let him learn on his own. And you would watch him get smarter, make a mistake and figure it out. Right. Your approach to all of this has been, really nice, for me.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging us to continue this relationship. You have another son, Caden, that's got a ton of talent and a ton of opportunity, and somebody that we want to try to groom in the late model stock car the same way we did with Carson.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why that's exciting for me is because I know how you and your family are to work with.
Sure.
And even Brian says that. But and so I wanted to make mention of that and credit you for how you managed Carson's career.
Yeah.
You made a great point about the text messages, sending those text messages to the people that you could, wondering whether that would ever make a difference or whether it mattered. We know now that it mattered.
Sure.
And so if there's a dad out there listening, or a dad who's wanting to figure out how to get his son going and what he should do, your role is like the blueprint.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of learning on the fly, but towards the end of my driving career, I was driving for some very underfunded teams, and people are like, "Why are you doing this, man? You've won some truck races, you won a Truck Series championship." And the reason was right there, 100%, just to keep those connections in the industry, see these people face to face every week. And, it was miserable, running at the back of the pack, but I felt like I had a kind of a plan, right? Like if you're not seen, you're kind of forgotten in the garage area, I felt like. So I knew what we were trying to build with Carson. I knew at that time he had a lot of potential to achieve big things. So I kind of stuck it out, and and it paid off, right? Like you never know who you meet in the garage, or what connection you make, or what bridge that will lead to. So looking back on it, I I loved every minute of the journey, bringing him along. I mean, it's fun to think back when he's just a kid, he grew up literally at the racetrack, in the race shop. We were at the track just a few weeks ago, and somebody, one of my old teammates, one of the mechanics was like, man, I remember Carson coming in there and digging under the bolt bin, picking up nuts and bolts, when you're 5. You probably remember that.
Yeah.
Or
I would wash them in the sink and they'd rust.
Yeah.
And I never could figure it out. I remember that.
Or another one said, I remember the hauler was inside the shop and he'd just run the lift gate up and down, and get candy out of the trailer. So that's all he's ever known is race cars. And he is, in my opinion, like, if you want to define a racer, it's him, 100%.
Yeah. I was introduced to Carson and his talent at Millbridge. You were running over there. Kelly, my sister, and LW, they've got Wyatt, who's racing now, but there was also Carson and Kennedy, and there was multiple reasons for them to be over in that area. And they came to me and said, we were looking for who was going to go in the car, our late model stock car, after Josh. And Josh came to me and said, this is an important choice because we've built this program up to be something spectacular, and the next driver that comes in there'll be more responsibility than they realize to keep it there. And I wasn't sure really how much Josh's involvement affected the performance of the car. We always, I knew Brian played a massive role in it, and I wasn't really sure how much Josh had learned and how much Josh's work ethic really did affect the team until he had that conversation with me, and it was really something that was pretty important. I mean, the late model stock cars are our core, it's our nucleus, it's everything we love about racing is found at the late model stock level. It's in that shop, it's in Slim and Brian and those people that are working there. And so we certainly wanted it to continue, but staying where it was, where Josh and those guys had got it to, was pretty unlikely because they had really became the best team in the country with that type of car. And so we had Kelly and LW came to me and said, we think we found somebody who we want to focus on, and it was you. Watched your race. I started watching you a little bit more than I was before. I'd recognized you, knowing your dad, and had recognized your name and seen you race, but then I started paying more attention. I think the one thing that I was really happy with was over the long. It feels like we've been doing this longer than we have, but you're a mechanic. You can do any job on the car. If Brian just couldn't be there, I think that car would be able to go to the racetrack with the setup and everything like it should and still be just as competitive. And so not only were you able to get in there and win races that your dad knew you could win, but you did work in the shop every single day. Which was at that level with that type of team is entirely necessary, and you've been able to keep that team as good as it was the moment you stepped into it. You just this past weekend won the biggest late model stock race of the year, which is kind of the benchmark in late model stock racing. And so I would say to you, man, congratulations, because not only are you getting this great opportunity to go into the Xfinity Series, but you were given an asset, which was the late model stock program, and you're giving it back to whoever gets in it next and back to me as in the same shape that you started it with, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't mess it all up, I guess you'd say. I knew it was, I'll tell you what, man, after we ran that Super in 21 and I got the chance to run Florence and Hickory at the end of 21, after all that and we got signed up to do full time for 22, I was really nervous.
Yeah.
Because I knew Josh leaving. That's a big, like you said, it's a critical role in the whole team, and I didn't really know how prepared. I guess I was. I was nervous that. I mean, you know how it is. You're always doubtful. It's going into the first race. It was one of those deals where I was told myself, like, you got to win. Like, I don't know why. It's just you have to win to prove that you're good enough to be there and stuff like that. But no, for sure. I mean, the last 3 years, it's been, you just got to hold it all together.
Yeah.
Brian, Slim, those guys, obviously they're the core of the late model team. But me being there, Josh being there, it's you got to have that person, I guess you'd say, and it all meshes together. And I just remember, man, I was so nervous getting in your car for the first time. The first, I'm telling you what, the first 20 races.
Nervous. Hell.
The first 20 races.
Yeah.
I mean, into 22, I was like, man, I don't know I hope they keep me for next year. Like, it's just, man, the whole time you're just on edge, and it's such a big opportunity that I just didn't want to mess it up. And yeah, those guys, the guys at the shop, Brian and Slim, it's without those guys, you ain't gonna have as nearly as successful of a late model team as you have now. But it does matter whoever's driving it, if they're hands on or not. I think, at least. So, yeah, I did the best I could, and it seems I really wanted to win Martinsville this past weekend. I was going into it for the month before that. I just wanted to win that race, just because I felt like the first year we went there in 22, I had a good shot to win it, and I guess I kind of messed it up, I guess you'd say, and didn't really make the right move on the green white checkered to get the win. And we ran third the next year, and we're just all over the win, right? And we're just barely outside the winning spot. And this year we brought a really good piece, kind of put the last few seasons together for a setup, and hit the track really good. And Brian really made it so good. We were a second place car until the halfway break. Brian made some small tweaks, and man, it was lights out from there.
So you had a little bit of a free race car up until the halfway mark. You're going to come in at halfway and put tires on and make some adjustments. The tires alone are a change that you don't know which direction they're going to go.
Yeah.
But you make the small adjustments to tighten the car up a little bit, and at the end of the race, you're far and away the best car.
Yeah, for sure. I thought at least probably a tenth better than the rest of the field, but I was surprised. I was a little doubtful. Brian kind of told me what he was going to change before the break or at the break, and man, I was just like, I just got to let him do it. He knows what it needs, and I threw some recommendations, but I just let him kind of take the ball and do his job, I guess you'd say, and it paid off. After 30 laps, we had the best car and just drove away at the end.
Brian Schaefer's the Brian that we keep mentioning. Brian Schaefer has been around NASCAR for a long time. He was working on Dick Trickle's car when Dick Trickle beat me in 1999 at Darlington, but just to give people an idea of like his history, he's a racer and a mechanic, and always a dirt under his fingernails kind of guy. And he, he's overqualified for that role that he has, but damn it, he's perfect for it. And he loves it, and we've been doing this a long time. He's been working on our program for a while through Josh and now you. He worked with William Byron and other drivers that we've had come through the program. But he'll tell you, like, all they want to do is just race. They want to go to the racetrack and race and have fun. And, it's a pretty neat program. But to your point, like, for all the young drivers that are listening, that are wanting to be in your shoes one day, if you don't work on the car, and if you're not there at 8 o'clock sharp every day until closing, being the first one there and the last one to leave, and always learning and always working, you won't get these opportunities.
No, I don't believe so. I mean, I've had people same situation shoot me a text, or they'll ask me at the racetrack, like, "Hey man, I'm running so and so Charger car. What do I need to do to get an opportunity or to be where you are?" And I always tell them that it's super difficult. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, I guess you'd say. But I just tell them, if you think you're working 100%, work 120 more %. It's so hard. You have to put everything into it, and everything has to go your way. Opportunities have to line up, and there's a lot of things that have to go your way, but you're not gonna get even close to the opportunity if you don't work all day every day and put everything to it. You can't go and go party all day, I guess you'd say, and or sit on the couch all day and wait for a phone call from Rick Hendricks, as per se. So I just tell everybody you got to work 110%. If you think you're working 110%, work even harder, and you might get a chance.
Yeah, I like to try to remind drivers, like, winning isn't enough. Like, you go into the racetrack on the weekend and winning that weekend's race isn't the only box you got to check.
No, for sure.
That's what we expect to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What you're doing between the races is where people are going to really notice. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, I talk about the Josh Wise program. Look, I mean, I'm not, me and your dad, we're not in the program, but I can imagine that the majority of the effort and the work in that program is miserable work. It's tough, but it's necessary. And some people have had opportunities to get into that program and didn't take it seriously, didn't enjoy it, so quit showing up. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that get noticed, right? It's, if you're given an opportunity to get into a program where you're going to get to work alongside Kyle Larson and Ross Chastain or whatever, some of these Chevrolet guys, you're a late model guy or a truck or an Xfinity guy, and you're going to be able to be in the same room with some of the best cup racers that Chevrolet has to offer. You've got to get yourself in that room, because not only are you getting better as a driver, right? You're going through whatever Josh Wise wants you to do that day, but Kyle Larson leaves that room and goes and tells everybody that he sees, man, Carson Kvapil works his ass off. I'm going to start watching him on the racetrack. Yeah. I like his work ethic. I like his attitude. That gets spread around and the right people start hearing that.
For sure.
They start paying attention to you. And that's the message out to all the younger drivers. Like, yes, you got to win races, but it really, it really matters what you're doing with your time when you're not at the racetrack, that people are going to start really picking up on.
Yeah.
And if you're not at Josh Wise or somewhere working out, training yourself physically, you have to be underneath that race car in the shop, figuring out what made it work or not work the last week. And I think a lot of kids just think, man, if I just win enough races, if I just win the right races, that's going to get it done. And it's just not enough anymore.
That's just part of it.
Yeah.
He won't brag on himself, but his work ethic is incredible. When he was 16 years old, he was had a kind of a summer intern role at GMS Racing. And I remember when I was 16 years old, I didn't want to get up at 6 in the morning, and drive 40 minutes to Statesville and be there at 7 a.m. on the clock or on the button. He did it all summer long, for 2 summers, I think.
Yeah, I think it was about 2, yeah.
It's, to me, that's, that was long before any of this was ever thought of, right? But it was an opportunity we kind of presented him, and he knew he loved working on race cars, so that helps. But he knew it was building towards potentially something big, and I give him a lot of credit for the time and effort, and he'll work in your shop all day, then he comes home and works in my shop till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night working on his little brother's car. Pretty incredible work ethic.
Yeah. I was I'd be surprised sometimes when we wouldn't have a late model stock race, some of the places that you'd travel just to be there to work on somebody else's car. Obviously you're going to be helping your brother, and that makes sense, but I mean, you would drive to Daytona or drive, hours and hours out of the way just to, be working on some race car somewhere. And so you definitely have that passion for it. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Say you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more in the same page where you place your bets. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/Dale. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in North Carolina. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. I wanted to step into what you think let's talk about the Cars Tour for a minute. What has the tour helped you? Let's praise that Cars Tour, because I talk about it all the time being a great place for racecraft and people to really understand how to race each other and become better and smarter drivers. Before you were winning races, you were successful before you ever got to the Cars Tour. But what's the Cars Tour meant to you?
Man, it's formed me for sure. It's been a huge role in part of my career, and the biggest thing I always say is just it's so much harder than it looks. I'm sure you know how it is.
Yeah.
You've ran it, and it's not just a Saturday night, a bunch of Saturday night guys coming out and racing. It's so much more than that, and the competition level since I've even started with you guys has multiplied so much.
Yeah.
Everybody has good stuff. Whenever I started, most of the guys had good stuff, good motors, good race cars, and now it's everybody. So the last few seasons have been really difficult. The Cars Tour is just the competition level is insane, really, for late model racing. It's there's 20 guys that I would list off that could win Hickory or Tri-County every week. It's just whoever gets their stuff literally perfect. If you have a race car and it's all right, you ain't gonna win. Or if it's pretty good, there's been races where I've said to Brian after the race, I'm like, Brian, it was good. I don't know what else we needed there, and we still finished third. So just the amount of competition that series has really prepared me for the Xfinity races that I've done this year. Even it's been one of those deals where got out of the late model, the Cars Tour late model racing, and jumped in the Xfinity car, and it's like, oh yeah, you drive it different, the cars are different, tracks are different, but man, the competition level isn't completely different. So it's been an honor, honestly, to run with the Cars Tour. I'm super fortunate to be able to be in this area and to be with you guys, to be able to run the Cars Tour and really be put up against the best competition in the country.
Yeah, 100%. I grew up in Wisconsin, and that's kind of a hotbed for short track racing for sure. And I'm not in the car, but I'm there every week. It is, in my opinion, by far the toughest competition traveling series there is. Like you said, there's 15 or 20 guys that could win week in, week out. Everybody has good race cars. Everybody has smart people working on them. They all have good race car drivers. So I don't want to say it's harder, but it's going to be – I don't think it'll be as crazy of a step going to Xfinity racing, or the next step is because this series it's prepped him very well to take that step for sure.
I love to hear that, man, because I wanted the Cars Tour to be a place that owners and people would look at, the NASCAR industry would look at for talent, to evaluate talent, a place where they may send talent to get evaluated, to get better, and so it's nice to hear that the transition, I guess, from the Cars Tour to an Xfinity car is not a massive jump. It's been a very kind of a comfortable thing for you. Let's go ahead and talk about it. You've had a couple opportunities to race in the Xfinity Series already this past year. The results are remarkable. I don't really. I guess I'm. Your dad knows what you can do. Your dad will tell us every day that, hey, this is who he is. This is what I've known he's been capable of this. But and I have a lot of belief in your ability, your talent. But to go out there and get the result you got at Martinsville, run in the top 5, to be able to go to Dover and sit there with a real true opportunity to win the race outright in just a handful of starts, to have a top 3 car, barring some pit strategy that kind of took you out at Michigan. You go to these races and you don't make the rookie mistake. I don't know whether it's your mentality, your even keel sort of approach to everything that keeps you from getting too excited or overexcited in those moments. But, you we've kind of build you as a driver that's turnkey and has really great racecraft, and then you go out on the racetrack and you prove it out. Kind of what's been your reaction to how well things have gone up to this point?
I mean, for me, it's just I've been happy. That's for sure. I mean, jumping up, obviously, from the late model stuff, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're getting into. You're going to Indianapolis for the first time, and you're going to Dover. You're walking into the place on Friday, seeing it for the first time. So
intimidating.
It is, yes. It's there's so much different about how the late model drives compared to the Xfinity car, to me at least. Just the aerodynamics and stuff like that. So much different that I feel like every week I'm learning more and more.
Yeah.
And I still really kick myself in the butt over Dover. About every few days, I always think about it. I'm just like, man, that's so close. If we would have just done little things a little bit different, if I would have just had a little more experience or knew what to do in the situation, I felt like we'd come out of that race with a win. So it's been tough for sure. There's been some times where I felt like I've kind of been, I guess, struggling a little bit, but at the same time, by the end of the race, pretty much every race, I kind of feel like I know what I need to do, and I'm not really sitting there wondering where the speed's at or what I need to do different. So for me, it's been great. I've enjoyed it a lot. I've learned so much this past season, just running that Xfinity car and feeling it all out. And some things even transfer back over to the late model stuff, that how the car drives and stuff like that. But no, it's been a big learning curve, learning all these new racetracks, and I'm excited to go to Dega this weekend.
I think it's incredibly we've been doing the late model thing for 5 years, and I honestly don't pay attention a whole lot to the big three. I mean, I watch the races, but I don't, I'm not engrossed in it like we were. I can't believe the challenge they set up for these younger drivers in ARCA, in the Truck Series, Xfinity Series. You might get 15 minutes of practice. You might get 30 minutes of practice.
Yeah.
That's really tough. The 15, 20 minutes of practice. I'm used to running late models where we usually get a day of practice.
Or you could go anytime.
Yeah, you just go test when you want, and not being able to do that and just getting one run of practice and then go qualify at Darlington. It's difficult.
Yeah, you take him to. We were in the ARCA race at Kansas last year, and he's never been anything bigger than Wilkesboro, I guess maybe, and just so much to take in, and the aero is so important, and that feel and the mile an hour. It's like, I just feel like they could do a better job. I understand maybe they're trying to save costs, but we're still only using one set of tires.
Yeah.
What's an hour and a half of practice versus 30 minutes? I feel like they could build that in the schedule to give these younger drivers a better opportunity, and I feel like maybe it would produce a better product on the racetrack. Maybe there wouldn't be spin outs or mistakes and things like that if the drivers got a few more laps and more comfortable learning the racetracks. But I guess at that point though, for him to get that limited practice time and still do great it's incredible. So give him a lot of credit. When
you went to Martinsville and ran in the top 5, did you have I remember when I was running, handful of my first few races, I'd have these moments where I was sitting on the grid or whatever, and I just couldn't believe that I was getting ready to do what I was about to do. And then when you get a result, I had relief, like, man, I might get to do this for a living, right? Because that's all we want.
Yeah.
All we want is to say, hey, do I get to do this for the rest of my life? Because that's really what we want.
Yeah.
And so when you finally go and you say, all right, I did it at this level. I ran top 5 at Martinsville in an Xfinity car. I belong here. What was your emotion around that?
I was really relieved. That's probably the biggest thing is, going.
Were you nervous you were going to screw it up?
Yeah, I was pretty nervous, honestly. I just felt like those cars drive different. So I knew the track, I knew Martinsville, but I felt like I would just make a mistake or there was something that I wasn't going to have figured out by the end of the race. And we just really were in a good spot all race. I think we didn't have the greatest pit stops, but I felt like every run we gained positions and just put ourselves in a pretty good spot at the end. And I knew as long as we didn't get caught up in anything, and you know how Martinsville goes. So I knew if we just stayed out of the trouble and finished where we were running, we were gonna have a top 5, at worst top 10 finish, and we're gonna have a good run. So the biggest thing for that race, and really all these Xfinity races, is just my goal is just to finish the race.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we can do that as the team, we're gonna have a good finish.
But at the end of Martinsville and a lot of these races in Xfinity Series, so you're smart enough and good enough to, like, for the first 3/4 of the race, keep yourself out of trouble and have put yourself in a decent spot. But in the last 20% of the race, or the last 10% of the race, especially at Martinsville, this year, all hell breaks loose. Everybody starts getting aggressive. They quit taking care of each other. They quit being respectful. They start, putting people in bad situations. And you were in and around all of that going on.
Yeah.
And you, multiple times, there were 2 or 3 moments where you had to get the restart right.
Mm-hmm.
You had to do this right. You had to make this choice and miss this, and just, not get caught up in this. And, there's a little bit of, luck involved, but you also make your own luck. And I feel like that, you can look at that Dover race and wish you could have it back, but there was also some moments in that Dover race that you made some choices that put you in that position to have that shot to win. And so that's one of the things that I think is innate in your sort of chemical makeup and your choices and decisions behind the wheel, is you seem to always, more times than not, make the best choice in the moment, right? The smartest choice in the moment, which will really serve you at the end of these races, because we know that the Xfinity races will get chaotic. Things just sort of unravel at times, and guys that are sitting there running top 3 all day end up getting knocked out or ruining their day. It's also starting to happen at the cup level. You're starting to see these races sort of get really intense and just sort of unravel and come apart in the last 10 or 20 laps, given the opportunity. So that's something that's that's like a quality that you have that I think is really going to serve you well. And I don't even know what you call it, but it you got great racecraft, but in the most intense moments, you don't really seem to be the kind of guy that gets spooked or riled up by things that are going on around you.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of that just stems from working on my own stuff or his stuff per se, and just, I feel like I don't wreck a lot, I guess you'd say. I don't want to jinx myself or anything, but
no, it's fair.
I feel like usually this stuff comes back in one piece, and I feel like a lot of it's just from working on them. Who wants to put front clips on it every week? And it's a lot easier to put front clips on when you don't have to do the hardcore labor.
I think a lot of it's just the person he is, the chemical makeup, as you referenced. But I think I honestly give a lot of credit to running those crazy outlaw karts at Millbridge. Those things are stupid quick, and you have to make reactions and moves and in an instant. There's no time to calculate it, right? He's done some incredible things in those cars, and you're at Millbridge, you would run the wall, and if you didn't run the wall, it was, there's a difference from first and third. So he always had that ability to maximize the race car, even when there was moments of adversity, the car's not at 100%, or I got to tell this story. One time he was running Millbridge in our 4-stroke car, and he's going in the corner, and the throttle's like, or the motor's like, ba-da-da-da-da, just banging the chip, and leading the race. Do you remember this, where I'm going?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, what in the hell are we doing? Like, he has to be grabbing the clutch, because I know we're not geared that far off. And then a few laps later, it's not hitting the chip, and we're driving away, winning the race. I'm like, what was that all about? Why is the thing killing the chip? He's like, oh, the throttle hung, and I figured out I could just grab the clutch. But then I knew it was hard on the motor, so then I decided to just hit the kill switch, and then let it go and fire it back off. And I'm like, this is crazy at 14 years old, running 2 inches off the wall, sideways. And that, to your point now, I think that's he's quick on the fly, making the correct decisions, computes in his head,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just part of what he is.
Yeah.
I'd probably agree with that. Those outlaw karts, they're probably the hardest thing I've driven today, at least. I mean, you've never jumped into one, have you?
No,
man, you need to.
Intense.
And it's a wake up call for sure. I mean, you don't even have time to make reactions. It's just whatever you do, you just hope it's the right thing. It's crazy how fast they are, and no suspension.
Quick.
Yeah, no suspension, 70 horsepower, 450 pounds with you in it. So it's just wild for sure. And there's really no time to think about decisions. It's just you got to do them.
You are coming up. You mentioned it. You're going to run Dega this weekend. What are you doing to prepare?
I've done a little bit of iRacing with Spotter TJ, and I got a few guys that jump on there to practice some side drafting stuff and drafting and timing and whatnot. But tonight I think I'm going to do a little bit more of that with those guys, and probably watch some races and just try to just figure it out, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like when I get there and I'm doing it, it'll hopefully come a little easier than what I think it will. But just trying to learn everything I can in a few days, right? And I feel like it's a discipline that I've never done before, so I feel like it's going to be another learning experience for me. But at the same time, I think if I can prep good enough and know what I need to do, or at least have a good idea of what does what whenever you're beside race cars and whatnot, I think I'll be pretty prepared.
That'll be a race where, what you said, like you use 3/4 of that race kind of figuring it out, put yourself in positions and understand what moves work, what didn't work, who you work with, how to make runs, things like that.
Yeah.
You'll learn for 3/4 of that race to be able to take advantage of what you learned the last 20 laps or 15 laps.
Yeah, hopefully the first 3/4 we just settle in and figure it out, and we're in a good spot for the last quarter.
Yeah. I when that race stays busy, when the pack stays busy, it can be a great opportunity to learn. If they end up putting the whole field up on the top side and everybody running single file, you basically don't have much choice other than to stay in line, right? And it's just the laps are going by and you're not really getting better as a race car driver.
Yeah.
But hopefully there'll be some opportunity for you to kind of put yourself in situations. And what I think will happen is, if you watched enough races when your dad was racing, and if you watched enough film of recent races, you'll have memories and moments when something you're doing behind the wheel will remind you of a race or a moment or a video that you saw, and you'll go, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The car did this, and now I know why. And
put it all together.
Yeah, and so then the car becomes like a tool. Like you have to use the car in the air to do what to do the passes and to make things happen that you want to make happen. But I'll be honest with you, like most drivers are not naturally great at racing at Daytona and Talladega. The majority of them will go to those races and not look great, not make great choices, maybe wreck out, which I did. I wrecked out of a lot of races, and like the first 6 plate races I ran, I destroyed the car. And eventually it just clicks, you put yourself in enough, it's not going to click unless you're out there, moving around, doing and trying, and you're going to do things and they're not going to work, and that's okay because you learned.
Yeah.
But eventually, and there'll be a race where it just all kind of comes together and the car's doing everything you're asking it to do. But I wouldn't be too worried about the result for this weekend, just about trying to just, like you say, you've never experienced this style of racing, go out there and run all the laps, get to the checkered flag, and hopefully you've learned a ton at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is left in the rest of this year? You're going to Dega. There's possibly there's some car store races left to run. They could be affected by the weather and the flooding that we had out in the western North Carolina. That's kind of put all that on pause for a while. So not really sure, But outside of Dega, what other races you got?
Yeah, for the Cars Tour, we got Tri-County, which hopefully is still on after all that. But that's the weekend after Dega, and then a weekend or two later, we go to North Wilkesboro to finish off the Cars Tour season. And other than that, though, I really don't have too many left. I think I'm going to Coda with a TA2 car November to try to, I guess, tune up on some of that road coursing a little bit better. And I might sprinkle in a few dirt races or something maybe in that cart. But what am I missing here?
Maybe the 400.
Yeah, maybe the Florence 400 at the end of the year. I'm not really sure on that one. I haven't really talked to Brian. Got a plan together. I think we'll probably have to see what our race cars look like after the season's over and see how much work we have to do, and that'll kind of sway that decision.
Yeah.
But it seems like, man, it just seems like this year's flown by so fast. It seems like it every year, right? But we only got a handful of races left.
I know.
We packed a lot of racing in this summer.
Yeah, it goes whenever you're in the middle of the race season and it's every weekend, it just blows by super
How many
quick.
cars do y'all have sitting at your house?
At the house?
Yeah, like raceable cars.
What is there?
Outlaw cart.
Yeah.
Micro.
Super.
Archie St. Hilaire, used to own the 32 Cup
So
car.
you got a super?
Yeah, I got his super. 2 of my pro cars.
Is that it?
And a broke down Cadillac.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Caden's driving some of that stuff.
Yep.
But there's super late model races and stuff going on in the, not so much in the wintertime in December, but you got the Slow Flake and all that stuff firing up.
Derby.
Yep. Yeah, they got the Derby going on. You won't be going up there?
I wanted to. Talking to him, my brother's gonna race Archie's 32 super late model there, and I kind of brought up the idea of taking his car, but just one of those deals where it's not a cheap race to run, and finding funding like that's pretty tough. So I've kind of just decided I'd like to do it, right? But we've decided that it's probably better if I just don't and
focus on
just kind of focus on next year, right? And I'll go there and I'll work on his car and help my brother out, but I feel like I don't really need to run it. I'd like to run it, but it's one of those deals where it just didn't really line up.
What's the most important thing for you? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that race financially,
it's tough.
And people.
Yeah.
Right, like
hard to get people.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
We go and we'll test Monday, and then the race is Sunday. So it's hard to find 3 or 4 or 5 guys that can be gone for
a whole week,
7 or 8 days.
For sure. What is one of the things, or what is something you're looking forward to this off season in terms of preparing for next year?
I haven't really thought of that, honestly, but
you're going to be doing so Sim's a big tool.
Yeah,
how much are you enjoying that? And
no, it's good. Andrew, my crew chief this year, he's really good about that sim stuff, and he really has good understanding for it. And I'll admit that I don't know what it is. The sim just doesn't really correlate to on track for me. I use it and it helps me for sure. But a lot of the times I get a little aggravated and basically asking Andrew, man, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm messing this up completely. What do I need to do? So we're gonna focus on that really hard, I'm sure, and really put some hours in at GM on the sim, and hopefully get me better at feeling the simulator. And obviously, just I'm hoping we can hit a lot of the tracks that we're going to go to and hit some of the ones that we've already raced at, and just try to have a good feel for every place. At least get the visuals of whenever I go to Richmond or when I go to Texas. So just trying to get as much on track experience as I can. Obviously you can't go test or anything, so the only thing you have to do is either watch film or get on the sim. So gonna knock a lot of sim hours out and just try to be as prepped as I can.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was surprised. So sim wasn't a big deal when I was racing, but it was kind of coming around, and now it's it's kind of something that a lot of the teams push for their drivers to use. There's still some drivers that are skeptical of the sim and don't really put a lot into it, but there's tons of drivers that do spend lots and lots of time on the sim. When I went to race at Bristol the past couple of years, having not been in the car and not been around Bristol, knowing you're going to get 15 minutes of practice and you got to get up to speed and be great, the sim was so helpful.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an interesting situation for you, knowing that maybe you're not as good or getting as much out of the sim as you you can or think you can, that you realize that it's such an important tool that you can't discard it.
No, for sure.
You're right. You can't just go, I'm
just
one of
not
those
gonna do it.
guys that aren't
Right.
I'm not getting anything out of it, so it's not important to me.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to figure out how to make that sim work for you.
Yeah, for sure. That's really the biggest thing over the off season that I want to focus on, is just get it to where I believe in the sim, or I guess you'd say, and I have a good feel for the sim. I know how it translates over and stuff. So I think every race we do, obviously we get on the sim a few times before we go to the racetrack, but every week it does seem to get better. I kind of feel like I'm not as lost, I guess you'd say, when I get to the racetrack, and hopefully after we put in a few sessions over the off season, I can feel a lot better about it.
I had a really good session last year, and then this year when I got in the motion rig, I got nauseous as hell. And I don't know, usually I don't get that bothered by it at all, and I always kind of felt like I was one of those that wasn't ever gonna have an issue with it. But we were running Bristol, obviously, and I was done with the particular run that I was gonna make, so I was trying to stop the car.
Yeah.
And so they could reset it and change what they were going to change and then fire it back up. So when you stop the car, for people that haven't been in the sim, you don't have to stop the car, but to let them know you're done and ready for them to try another change, you pull over and stop the car, and the sim just turns off black.
Yep.
Like it goes black. They make a change in the room back there, whatever, on the computer, and then the sim fires back up, and all of a sudden the screens pop back on, and you're back in the car on pit road, and you're going to drive it off pit road and run whatever change it is they made. I went to go stop the car, and I was on the back straightaway, and then the car started sliding down the hill. And so I'm sitting there, and the whole room's moving to the right, and I about lost my lunch. And then that feeling never went away. Like, even though I ran another 45 minutes, I was like sick.
Yep. I've felt like that before.
God,
I don't get it too bad, but
Yeah.
there's been a few times where I'm just like, man, I just need to take a break.
Take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
It is. It's a bit tough. Considering like you're a bit of a sim racer, and I've been sim racing all my life, I thought I was never gonna have an issue with it. But man, when you get in that sim and you've got to be in there for an hour and you get nauseous in the first 15 minutes,
It's rough.
it's not a fun.
Makes
day.
it rough. Yeah. for sure.
Some of those sim sessions can be really long.
Yeah, I did a few of them with some cup tire stuff. Man, I'm trying to remember. It was 7 to 12, 7 a.m.
Jesus.
to 12 p.m.
Really?
Man, it was brutal. Yeah, I did probably 4 or 5 of those with Kenny, and man, it was brutal for sure.
Kenny Francis?
Yeah, I did Francis, and
Oh my God.
yeah, it was rough. 7 to 12 is pretty brutal.
Damn. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. But all right. So do you know what the emotions will be like when you go into Daytona for the first time, starting off your full season?
Man, I would say I'll be nervous, but I feel like after Talladega I'll have a lot better feel for it.
Yeah.
And I kind of know what to expect, I guess. Going into Dega this weekend, I'm kind of just have an open mind and trying to learn as much as I can and figure it out. But I feel like by the time Daytona comes around, I'll have a lot of knowledge on how to speed race, or more knowledge than I have now, and I'll kind of be able to. I'll do the same thing as I did this year, probably. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna really change anything when I go to Dover and all these races. I felt like we've had really good runs and been contending for wins at a few of them. So I feel like just gonna try to take all the stuff that I learned this year and some stuff in the sim I learned over the off season, and just try to translate it over and have as consistent and as successful a year as we can.
Do you talk to him about the do you talk to him about the grind that now, I mean, you've been grinding in the Cars Tour, and running short tracks is no easy feat, but you do have a couple off weekends here and there. And the grind driving in a top, series in NASCAR is more of a mental thing.
Yeah.
You talk to him about that?
No, we haven't really had that conversation yet.
You feel great out of the gate.
Yeah.
Hitting on all cylinders. Everything's great. And then about right around August, you go, damn, how much more season do we got left? Like, I'm smoked.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, it can be tough.
Now, looking at the schedule, it looks like it's – hopefully I'm not fighting that too much, right? But it does look like it's really long. And obviously the late model stuff, we run 20, 25 races a year. And but it's a little more spread out. We start in February and end in November, October. So it's a little bit more spread out, and maybe we're racing a few more times with the Xfinity car, but it's a lot more compact. And haven't really prepared myself for it, but looking at the schedule, it looks like it's going to be racing.
I just hope
that's all we're going to be doing.
One thing we talked about a little bit, and I just hope he enjoys it, because I remember it's like my first year in the truck series. I'm sure you remember your first opportunities. You're so nervous and you're so insecure. Just take it in, man. Enjoy it. It's these, like, you're right. What you're doing right now, man, this is the best part of your life. You don't have kids, really any responsibilities other than go racing every weekend and just have fun, and enjoy every moment of it.
I'm going to try. That's for sure. That's what we're all here for, right?
Yeah.
Have some fun, go win races.
Yeah. I think once you, that's a good point about enjoying it. And I've talked about it on my shows before about, man, when I was in your shoes, I was so worried about, am I going to make it? Am I going to get to do this the rest of my life? For lack of a better way to describe it. And you're so worried about that you don't realize how much fun you're having.
Yeah.
And so I told Josh Berry, I said, yes, go to the Cup Series. Try to get to the Cup Series. That's absolutely where you want to be, but you're never going to have as much fun as you're having right now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where you want to go, and that's where you hope to get, but there's more and more work. All that stuff, but Monday to Friday, it's going to keep getting, tougher and tougher.
Yeah. That's
the part I think that's probably the most difficult now for you guys. Is so much more is required and expected of you Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday than there ever was for me and Travis. I mean, we would race on Sunday or on the weekend. You'd have a couple debriefs. You might get over the shop. It wasn't a requirement, but of course you tried to be accountable and available. But it was a couple phone calls, some bullshit sessions, and you were going racing the next weekend.
Yeah, be on the plane Thursday.
Right? Yeah. Now, and you had a lot of that you could do that was your own, right? You had your family or your shop or your own race cars or whatever your hobbies were. You were taking more of that during the week. And you guys aren't afforded that anymore. You're the
studying film,
the
breaking down pit stops.
Freaking meetings they have now. The meetings they have is crazy. And the Josh Wise and all of the things that are just going to be plugged into your schedule that you're not going to get to say no to.
For sure. I'm ready. I feel like I've noticed the last season it's kind of been
ramping up
a little bit of a wake up call, I guess you'd say, but I feel like I'm glad I was able to run a handful of races this year to kind of be able to experience that and not get hit right in the face with the door when we come Daytona time.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, man, I wouldn't before we end this conversation, I've there's so many people that you will think are responsible for this opportunity and want to be thankful for. Namely your dad and the sacrifices that he's made to allow you to race and to give you opportunity. He's enjoyed every damn minute of it. He'll tell you that. Yeah. But he certainly has invested a ton of his life into giving you these opportunities. And you've had a ton of partners in your career over the years that have been a big help. I know Corvette Parts, Mr. Keen's been somebody that's supported you guys. You talk about those relationships that you were, that you were nurturing toward the tail end of your career that have continued to be valuable. He would be one of the individuals that I'd say you could credit to helping you continue your journey. Another partnership is one that's been more recent, and that's Bass Pro Shops. Bass Pro Shop has been a partner and a friend of ours of the Earnhardt families for a long time, a friend of my dad's, and we've worked in many, capacities over the years together in different ways. We were lucky enough and fortunate enough to have them join the late model program and want to invest in what we're trying to do there. And it's been a lot of fun to introduce Johnny to you and to what we're trying to do with you, Carson. And so we always want to be mindful of that. Johnny actually came out to some late model stock races, actually showed up at Florence, which is always a lot of fun, knowing how busy and how many places he's getting pulled in many directions. And so that's been a great relationship, and one that we're thankful for, and one that we're going to continue going forward. And so you've been a great representative for not only Junior Motorsports, but Johnny and Bass Pro Shops on the late model side, and helping us continue that relationship here at Junior Motorsports.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always think back to that icebreaker race earlier in the year when Johnny came out, and that was a really good time. We obviously we won that race. You finished third, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had a good
Something
run.
like that,
yeah, something like that. You had a really good run. We won the race, and having him there and his kid and his buddy there was a really good time.
Yeah.
I was nervous, right? Obviously, it's I think it was my first time meeting them, and it was really good that we were able to win that race for him and send him home with the trophy and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, those guys, I mean, obviously without CorvettepArts.net and Lake Norman Mechanical, and man, I could sit here for 30 minutes and just list off names of volunteers and people that have helped me throughout my career and gave me opportunities. I could sit here and do it. So obviously you can't do it with those guys, and without Johnny and Bass Pro Shops and all the people that invest into the racing scene, we wouldn't be able to do this. So just can't thank those guys enough. And Tom Keene, TJ Keene, Brad and Lou Hawk over at Lake Norman Mechanical, all those people. It's just it's great to have those type of people in racing, and they really push guys like me ahead.
They're rooting for you, man. This is what they want. They support you for all these years, and they're just hoping these opportunities come for you. So
Tom Keene's been doing some amazing things in motorsports, and especially in short track racing over the years, and his name's been everywhere because he just loves it. But he does love you guys, and he is probably one of your biggest fans, and to see you get this opportunity must mean the world to him, having helped you.
So we were talking earlier about relationships and connections. Mm-hmm. That's how I met Tom and TJ Keene, was when I was driving Archie's 32 Cup car.
Yep.
They were a small part of their sponsor on that car, and when I got to know them and become friends with them, they got to know the boys, and they started sponsoring him when he was in a Bandolero.
They had to be my first sponsor, weren't they?
Absolutely. Running a Bandolero car
12 years old
at the summer shootout. So they've been on this journey as long as anyone.
Yeah. And Johnny with Bass Pro they were instrumental in getting Josh to the next level, getting us, we went 10 years trying to find that opportunity for Josh at the Xfinity level, and Johnny and his team were really critical to allow us to get to where we needed to be to help Josh get that full-time program. And it's been fun to see him help us on our late model side too, be able to give drivers like you opportunities so we didn't have to try to wait 10 years to get you that Xfinity level. Well, Carson, I'm gonna tell you, man, I have, racing the late model, you know how important the late model car is to me, and the driver that drives that car has to check a lot of boxes, which you did. You're a great mechanic. You're a winning driver, a great personality, easy to be around, fun to be around. But another part of that relationship that's important to me is that we would become friends, and that I would, I gotta want the best for you, right? And that's like a bonus really for me, and that's what happened over the course of you driving our car. I became a massive fan of yours. I really enjoyed being around you, racing with you, going to the racetrack, and being a teammate to you, and getting to know your dad on a different level. We had always been competitors, and just to know your family and how hard y'all have worked to create this opportunity, to know how appreciative of the opportunity you are, and how well you'll shepherd and take care of this opportunity. I have no doubt that you'll not only succeed, but you'll do it the exact right way. And so I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to next year, just continuing the journey that we've all been on, and Can't wait to go to Victory Circle. Can't wait to go to
Yeah.
Victory Circle and see you hold up a trophy.
Me too. It's I feel like after that Dover race, I just want it even more now. So I feel like when that does come finally, I'm gonna be really excited. You might see a smile out of me, which is sometimes tough for me to do after Victory Lane.
You won the Martinsville race. I'm like, act like you care for this, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big one. You know?
It's just something.
I had tears in my eyes.
I don't know what it is, man. It's just
who you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when we go to the racetrack and we win the race, that's my part of the job.
What you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's my job. My job is to go there and win the race. So if you finish second or third, you're not doing your job. But no, for sure, it's I'm super excited for this opportunity. It's a huge step up for me, and trying to prepare the best I can and go out there and right out of the gate and succeed.
Yeah.
I think for us, everything you said there is incredible to hear that. But he would echo what I say. Is just thank you guys, thank you and LW and Kelly for recognizing him at Millbridge, years ago, and giving him this opportunity. It's life changing.
Without that, I'd probably have a Snap-on toolbox and be working on race cars the rest of my life.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Racing his car when I could.
Working on someone else's race car, not your own.
Yeah, for sure. So just to have that opportunity that we got 3 years ago with the late model, and obviously it's transformed into this Xfinity ride. It's just can't thank you guys enough, everyone here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great example, classic example of how these things are supposed to happen, how they should happen. You guys worked for every success. You worked for every checkered flag. You worked for every next door to open, and all that hard work pays off. All that every text message he sent, all those things build up and create equity. And with all that effort over time, it pays out, and that's just what's happening. We got a lot of confidence in you, bud, and it's going to be fun having you part of the team. You're going to have some great teammates next year. You'll be going to the racetrack every single weekend instead of these spotty one-off runs. And so it'll be fun for you to sort of get into a rhythm. And I can't wait, man. It's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. This is probably the funnest thing about being an owner in the sport is getting to work and race with people that you like to work and race with. And so, we're going to have a good time.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, man. Travis and Carson Kvapil on the Dale Jr. Download. All right, so it was a great conversation with Carson and Travis, and we've been kind of sitting on the news about trying to get his deal together and going full-time next year, and it's finally nice to be able to put this out there, and it actually creates a lot of dominoes, right? Who's going to go into Josh? Who's going to go into Carson's seat at the late model program? There's a lot of conversation around that over the last several months. So, and it puts me back in that situation that I mentioned earlier in the conversation with Carson. Is, man, we got to make sure we put the right person in there at this time, and keep that program not only successful, but have the knowledge, the mechanical knowledge, and the input and involvement that it needs, continuing from the driver's seat and in the shop as well. So that's something that's important to me. Also, and I want to keep driving the late model race cars out of that shop for some time going forward. So I definitely want that program to continue to be strong. But at the same time, I'm going to be wanting to, see how Carson does with his full time in the Xfinity series, and want to, kind of be present in what he's going to go through. We've got a cool lineup next year that I'm excited about for our junior motorsports cars, and I think that they'll all work well together and motivate each other and raise the expectations and hopefully raise the successes on the racetrack as well. But it's it's a bit of an exciting moment, but also a bit of a sad moment. As Carson made mention, he knows that he's stepping away from full-time late model stock short track racing. And while that's what he wants, while that is the goal, it is a really hard thing to let go of. And because even though he's excited about the future and the next step, he does realize just how pure and how much fun short track racing is. And so, you never will go back and do that again. You'll never be able to recreate the enjoyment and excitement that he's experienced over the last 3 or 4 years with our team. And so, that it's kind of tough knowing a chapter like that's closing while another exciting one is opening up. So I hope that people will appreciate Carson. I hope they'll appreciate the path that he took to get to where he is. I hope they will appreciate his father's commitment and love for his son and the things that he's done to provide these opportunities. And even though, Carson has jumped in the cars and seized and won and done what he was expected to do, Travis has done a lot to in the background to keep that, keep that kid's career going. And so I'm telling you, it's been fun for us to get to know them the way that we have working with Carson on the late model stock program. And it's got me excited about Carson going into our Xfinity program and watching his brother Caden come up through the ranks and possibly be a driver that we could have in our late model stock cars in the future. So it's been nice, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's just wanted to get them in here and get the announcement done, but also learn a little bit about Carson, let folks that are listening learn about Carson and who he is. He's understated. He's calm and quiet and not going to brag on himself. He thinks when he wins races, that's his job and what he's supposed to do, which is admirable. And he's going to give every day. He's going to work as hard as he can to put himself in position to succeed. So it'll be fun. It's going to be fun pulling for him. He's an easy one to pull for. Got to thank Ally for setting us up every single week at the guest segment here on our Wednesdays with the Dale Jr. Download. They brought us a couple allies into the office today that I was excited to interview. And no matter what you're saving for, whether it's race tickets to the next race, a new car, a new home, we're all better off with an Ally. All right, it's time for the white flag. Dropping Sunday after the race at Kansas. Teardown with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi. They covered everything going on in the Kansas race, which was a lot. Had some great opinions about what they thought of the events. And then Monday, actions detrimental with Denny Hamlin. Denny gave us the point of view from behind the wheel of his Toyota during their Kansas race and what he thinks of their situation going forward in the playoffs. Door bumper clear, the spotters got together and raised hell and complained about everything, as they usually do on Monday. And then yesterday, Dirty Air dropped. Amy was on the show, as she always is at the first of the month. Speed Street drops today with Connor Daly and Chase Holden. Tomorrow, DJD Reloaded with Ask Amy. It's usually Ask Junior, but it's Ask Amy. That drops on DJD Reloaded tomorrow. And then Dirty Mo Doe comes out, giving you all the best bets for the upcoming race at Talladega. And remember to leave us a 5-star Apple review. We will read it on the show, as we've read over the last several weeks. Andrew Brown gives us a 5-star review here, as he says, I have around an hour and a half drive to work in Sanford, and I can get an episode in before I get to work. I always enjoy your content and the guests that you present to your audience. Andrew, I appreciate that. If you're speaking of Sanford, North Carolina, I ran my very first go-kart race at Sanford way back in the day. So shout out Sanford. Thank you, Andrew. And we'll see y'all tomorrow on DJD Reloaded. Check out Dirty Mo Media on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram.